thank you very much for having me.
Don't thank me yet.
You have the right to remain silent.
Is it finished?
Yeah, I just saw your tag expired.
It's in a TV. Do you have a single fact to back that up?
You know, this is the one where
Think you're funny?
You understand me?
I think you need to go get a dictionary.
Hey, it's me and you now.
Hey,
Hey, guys.
what up?
This is Matt,
That's my name.
and
You're Alex.
this is Alex.
You're Alexander.
And today,
Or you were born Alexander, right?
yeah, just like you were born Matthew.
How'd you know that?
I've known you for a couple days.
Oh, maybe it feels like it.
Yeah. So, finally going to do a movie review podcast.
A Christmas movie
And
in February.
yeah, to make things easier on ourselves, we watched it earlier today, but have not talked about it at all. So this is going to be the first time we discuss it with each other and you. So saying that, you want to kick things off? I actually, this entire movie, I didn't have like a list of things that I wrote down.
You enjoyed it that much?
Yeah, actually I did. So go ahead.
I really liked it. We're talking about FATMAN.
Yeah, FATMAN.
If you forget to put it in the title of the podcast.
It's in the title.
Oh, it's already there?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I really liked it. It was very it's strange. It's because we're talking about Santa Claus here.
Right.
It's a movie about Santa Claus, and most of the time movies that have Santa Claus in them don't exactly.
Well, they're a very specific type of movie is the best, I guess.
This is a strange blending.
Right.
It's like the Christmas movie, but with like an action element, sort of. But it's not like an action movie. Towards the end, there was like a big action scene, which we'll have to talk about because I loved it. Loved the shit out of it. That whole sequence, that action sequence at the end of FATMAN, I think that went on for about 20 minutes, 20 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, it was
and it was done very realistically.
Yeah.
Which the first thing I think of after watching FATMAN was, wow, that had some pretty solid action in it. That had some pretty solid gun battles going on.
Yeah.
Like they must have had some advisors on the set of like, this is how guns are fired. This is how explosions happen. It's not what I thought I would be saying first.
It was not overly done by any,
yeah,
like in a movie way, like most movies do.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
I didn't know very much going in other than Mel Gibson was Santa Claus and Walton Goggins was this weirdo hitman that was trying to find him and kill him. And I was like, awesome.
Right.
Let's do it. But yeah, one of my main takeaways from it was I loved both of them in the movie.
Yeah.
And I loved the gun battles that were happening. And I just I don't know. I could pick little things out here and there, but I thought it was pretty enjoyable through and through.
Yeah.
And your initial takeaway?
So my initial takeaway is, man, like I think did it. So not knowing like behind the scenes stuff or anything, like it was a really simple movie. Location wise, effect wise, acting wise, there wasn't like any big budget feeling things with this movie, which I assumed they were going to be sprinkled in somewhere, but they weren't.
Right.
Like the biggest budgety thing that happened was that action scene probably at the end.
And it was awesome, dude. It was one dude infiltrating this base with like 24 soldiers.
Yeah. And the one thing I really, really enjoyed about it was everything was just like when they portrayed something, they did it in such like a thought out way. It wasn't like, so you think of like, oh, it's a Santa Claus movie. Okay, I understand what Santa Claus is going to look like, what his house is going to be like, what the elves are going to be like. It was like completely different. This was like, a legit real world version of what Santa Claus
Yeah, if
would
Santa
be.
Claus really existed,
Yeah.
this is what it would feel like.
And like even with the Hitman, like the sterile type environment he like had himself like in, like his house or like even his car, like nothing was messy, like everything was like pinpoint, specific.
Mm.
The whole thing was just like well done in such an odd way. Um because they could have did a million things with it to make it seem like more of a Santa Claus movie. Like he goes to deliver the presents on Christmas, you don't see any of it. He just like leaves Mrs. Claus and then comes back with a bullet wound in his stomach because some kids were shooting at him in the air. And it was like, yeah, this feels really cool.
You never see Santa Claus flying around in the sky in his sled and magic sparkly dust floating behind him.
But that I think that was one of my favorite parts about all this is that even though he wasn't like, oh, this is magic Santa, there were moments when like it was like, oh, that's right, he is Santa, because like he'd meet like somebody for the first time and be like, he'd be like, oh, Matt Leslie, yeah, been through some tough times, I remember that. And the guy's like, what? Oh yeah, that's right, he's Santa, he knows everything. And there's like weird stuff like that was just sprinkled in, and it was like they didn't harp on that at all. Like on like family Santa movies, it's like that's the whole like shtick. And this, it's like he's basically a normal person trying to get by. Now nobody believes in him, so production's cut in half, and he's not getting paid correctly and all this stuff. And it's just like it's such a down to earth version of Santa.
Yeah.
And then spoilers.
Santa.
This is the most honest spoilers portion that we've done so far, but like when the kid basically takes, calls the hitman's like, I want you to kill Santa, it's just like such a different approach to anything.
Yeah. Because this could have been
Santa related.
Hire a hitman. Like this could have been anybody.
Yeah.
Like hire a hitman to go kill this guy that you don't like because he pissed you off. But this plugs in these strange characters.
Right.
Santa Claus being the main one.
Right.
Which it's like, okay, if you could have an assassin going after somebody, who could you pick? Well, instead of just some like fucking no-name nobody or another plot you've seen 1,000 times, it's like, let's make it Santa Claus. I really have no idea how this movie was ever greenlit, to be perfectly honest.
I think
it's low budget, so you could tell they didn't put a lot of chips into it.
Yeah. I think it was brilliant though.
Yeah, it was good. It's because like when people don't have all of these extravagant effects, when they are limited, their compromises force them to come up with like unique ideas.
Yeah.
And I love that. It was so much more grounded.
Yeah, it felt like it really felt like you were just watching, like when we get to like the ratings, like the do you believe in the universe type of thing with the movie. I like believed it. Like this could be a real Santa. Like right now, just up there in the Arctic or whatever, North Pole, like I believe like that part of it. Like it just felt so grounded in a weird way. And I think that's probably because they didn't do the weird sparkly magic, like super hyper magical version of Santa that just like anybody and everybody does. Like, this movie could have easily been like Santa like shooting candy canes out of his fingers to kill somebody, but like there he is with a 6-shooter or like you said, what is that, a blunderbuss? But like that, there he is with a 6-shooter duking it out with some hitman just in the snow outside, out front of his house. And like the most magical part about the whole movie, spoiler, is like he literally gets shot in the face and then lives and then kind of comes back to, kick some butt, so to say. But like, yeah, the movie was just really enjoyable to watch. And like, if I think about it, like really, really hard. There wasn't the movie like from A to B to C the whole way to Z, like it traveled correctly. There wasn't like too many points where I was like, oh, that's a convenience.
Yeah.
Like that was written in there for the hell of it.
Mhm.
Like the most ridiculous out of the world chance thing that happened is when he I don't even remember what his name is in the movie, if they even tell you, the hitman was getting ready to shoot him like right outside of the post office, like the tractor and trailer pulls in front of him and blocks the view. Like that's the most convenient thing that they wrote in. And I, the whole time I'm like, man, it's solid. Like it's solid.
Right.
Like, of course, with any movie, you can kind of pick a little thing here and out, here and there out of it. But it was like, my goodness.
Yeah.
Like this was well done.
Yeah.
And the worst thing they probably had to deal with was like, getting around in the snow on set.
Mhm.
But it's like, yeah,
I
very
mean,
enjoyable.
It just kind of cut back and forth between Santa and the hitman, and you'd see a little bit of that cunt child,
Right.
the little asshole that
The
hired the
spoiled
hitman.
brat. Yeah.
Oh my God, he was reminding me of Joffrey. He was just such a piece of shit. He was such a piece of shit. I
Yeah, he
actually
was
thought this
awful.
movie was going to kill him. I was like, it may be a kid, but I was like, this movie's going to have Santa Claus just walk up and snap his neck because there was things happening in this movie sometimes that you didn't really expect to play out the way it played. Like,
it was very,
like at the end with Santa getting shot in the eye.
Thought for sure it wasn't going to happen. Like that was one out of maybe 2 or 3 times where I was like, well, here comes this, and this is why it's not going to happen. And then you watch it happen. Yeah. And you're like, whew, that was cool.
Yeah. And it didn't, when he wasn't really dead, it didn't feel like a cop out or a convenience because he's Santa Claus.
Even
he's
you,
magic.
You were sitting there watching it and you're like, oh, I knew it. And that was like the only time in the movie where you were like, oh, okay. He kind of like, of course he lives, but it didn't feel like that.
Because he had said earlier in the movie when he had gotten shot, he's like, it'll heal just like it does every time. Like he doesn't need to see a doctor or whatever. He just regenerates.
Yeah, and the thing was like, when he did get shot, when you're watching a movie and you're like, I know this is gonna happen, but he's coming back, so it's not like impactful in any way.
Yeah.
Like this was like, it's not going to happen. It happens. Then you like almost like a child believing in Santa. You're like, well, he's got to come back. Right. And you don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mrs. Claus picks him up and she's just basically like pets the one not bullet hole side of his face. And he's just like, and it's like, oh, cool. Like that was cool. Like the way they did everything was so like grounded that it just felt like, if Santa was real, like this is just like a story, this is just a retelling of an actual story. That's what it felt like. It was so grounded and everything. Mm-hmm. Like even when the explosion happens, like I was just like, that's the most realistic explosion I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It wasn't a movie explosion. Like he threw like this pipe bomb basically into the barn and it blew out everything, but it wasn't like a gigantic fireball. It wasn't like, like you said, oh, this is not a Michael Bay movie. It's not like there isn't a crater there from, the giant bomb that he threw, but it was only like this big.
Yeah. There's like 2 ways movies do explosions. The one way is just, let's set up 17 camera angles so we can get all this expensive pyrotechnics going off.
Right.
Which is like, if you're it's an expensive thing you're doing there. You want to make sure that you're covering it from a lot of angles. So I can get like why it's done. But man, I love it so much better when they just stage it in a way that they're like, we're going to get this in one shot where the character is just like walking away from it as it blows up. Like, but not in like the cool slow-mo kind of way. Like, remember the Joker in The Dark Knight when he blew up the hospital and it was just blowing up behind him and he's just like enjoying it. And it's like one take.
And it
felt real.
Because it matches like that's why like to me that like the ratings for this movie for me will probably be the highest because everything felt so correct. Like it wasn't a gigantic explosion, so Hitman's coming out of the barn, throws the bomb in, shuts the door, walks away, gently walking away, basically typing in the code to then hit it to explode. He ducks behind a car, explosion.
Yeah.
Like that type of explosion in a normal movie, no one would have done anything because it was so minor. But that's what a real one would be like.
Yeah.
It's not a movie explosion where, like, you know, the whole roof is blown off and like half the barn's on the ground. Then
Right.
it wasn't that big of a bomb, you know, it wasn't that big of a bomb, but it was just so, yeah, I mean, it was just so practical. The whole time I felt like, man, this is one of those movies I connect so much with, because it's like if we would have come up with that idea,
Hmm.
we could have done every single thing in this movie. That, like, with a very small crew, it wouldn't have been like out of the realm of possibility.
Right.
You know, I think the one thing I did write down was nothing was over stylized.
Right.
Nothing was hyper
I thought for sure it
stylistic.
would be. If any movie's
Yeah.
over stylized, I thought a movie
The
about Santa Claus and hitmen,
Right.
you're meshing this together. What's that going to look
No,
like?
it was just so. It was so. That's why
Yeah.
I can't use any other word properly other than grounded. But like, even like the Hitman, it's like they showed him. It was like John Wick-esque. Like they purposely showed him multiple times within like 30-second multiple clips of him like reloading his guns.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he was just emptying. Oh, sorry. It wasn't like him just emptying clips on Santa Claus and like, whoa, it's the endless gun thing. Like it was like he pops up behind a log,
Yeah.
and then he like goes back, and it was just like everything was just really well done.
It showed him doing all his preparation and planning
Right.
and how tactical he was being about everything.
Right.
It showed him getting the clothes he was going to wear. And,
that little shop.
Yeah, and just like all the ammo and how he was going to hold his guns.
Right.
Like and they showed all of those little details.
Yeah.
And I love it when a movie does that.
It's because you're like building up so like when you see that stuff, you're just like, it's selling the character even farther than it probably needs to. And then by the time that something's happening of like grand, you know, like he's into the battle, you just like, whoa, this guy knows exactly what he's doing before he even pulls the trigger once.
Right.
You know, because it's just like, it's sold across the board.
Yeah.
Like everything you needed to know, you know.
Yeah.
And I guess that's the only thing about it that I could pick on a little bit. It was a little, I think at some points, a little too John Wick-ish, where like his pinpoint accuracy was like intense.
Oh, well, when he did the thing at the shooting range where he was going through the room
that was
shooting
John Wick
targets,
and
I
a
was
half,
like, oh, this
yeah.
is Keanu Reeves'
Yeah.
YouTube video for sure.
Yeah. But
which is like great homage.
Right. And I to be honest with you, I'm not like upset about it at all. Because it did its job to sell him as just this like ridiculous hitman even farther. Yeah. I mean, even like he's in the range and the guy's like, wow, that was the fastest time on the course. And he's like, all right, let's run it again. He's like, well, I was thinking about, and this is like Christmas Day.
Yeah.
And he's like, I was thinking about getting home to my family so I can see my grandkids open gifts. He's like, what, is my money not good? You know, is getting paid not good enough? And he's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. It's like, is it not worth your time? No, that's not what I'm saying. Let's run it again.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I don't know.
He's just a
like
dick.
even though his character feels goofy, there's like this weird nuance with it that they did so well, where it's like, this is literally like, it's a joke character. That's what it should be.
I was just about to talk about that with him. He was just the right amount of cartoon.
Right.
Because this is a movie about fucking Santa Claus,
right.
after all.
Yeah.
And it was it towed that line like perfectly.
Yeah, it was so well done.
He was so funny and so ridiculous and such an asshole.
Yeah. But
cartoony.
He was like funny in that weird way that's like, I'm not funny, but like how it comes across is purposely funny.
Yeah.
It's just so like he's walking.
Can't wait to threaten people.
Like one of the first times you see him, just some guy walks into like this weird room, hands him a bat, and he's like staring at it through the like this giant, you know, microscope thing. And he like threatens this guy basically the guy's like trying to get like $2,000 out of him for it, and he's like, "Oh, give you 900." And then it shows like this little placard on the bottom of the bats that like made in Santa's workshop. It's just like, and then he goes and puts it back with like all the other things he probably bought of Santa's workshop, and then it shows like the little car that Santa gave him. That was the first and only time Santa gave him a present, and it was just like this. It's exactly what you said. This is like a cartoon character, but the way, like, also like you said, the way they towed the line between what could have been stupid and too serious was like,
Yeah.
it was just so well done.
Yeah.
It was like this is just one of those movies to me. It's just like, it's gonna be a throwaway movie. It's, you know, they're not winning awards for this, but like when they sat down to write it, to, you know, storyboard, like they nailed it.
Yeah.
They nailed everything they needed to sell each character in the very specific way they needed to.
Yeah.
They
had a vision going in. There wasn't like this conflict of tones.
Yeah, no, it was like perfect.
Yeah. And just to go back to Walton Goggins Hitman,
Right.
It reminded me kind of I forget the guy's name in No Country for Old Men, but he's like one of the most popular villains in pop culture now. You know, the guy with the weird haircut in No Country for Old Men, that's
Yeah, I
like,
know who
what's
you're
the most
talking
you ever lost on a coin toss?
Yeah.
He kind of reminded me of that guy, because every single person that the hitman encountered, you didn't know if he was going to execute them.
If he's gonna kill
You
them
never
all.
knew.
Yeah.
And like every time someone denied him something or disappointed him, he would execute, or he would just kill him, even if they gave him everything he wanted.
Right.
Like, have a nice day, sir. Thank you. Boom. It's like, wow.
Right.
Just to like get their clothes. Like if you were standing in his way, or from him getting to his goal, he was going to take you out. If you pissed him off, he was going to take you out. If you insulted him, he was going to take you out. Or he was just going to hurt you really bad or take you out.
He does that like 2 or 3 times in a row, and then he kind of stops.
Yeah, he's just leaving this bloodbath trail on his way to the North Pole.
Right.
And I was like, God, this guy is like a fucking lunatic. And then I almost like just laughed out loud when he was in that that like mailbox room.
The post office.
Yeah. And he's like, oh yeah, can you tell me like where this guy lives?
The guy says no, and he's like,
I was like, I've never been more sure of someone about to die in my life, because then the hitman's like, oh really?
Yeah.
Oh really?
He's like, oh no, I actually don't know that information.
Like here's another chance for me to threaten somebody. Like you could tell he enjoyed it so much. Anytime someone gave him a reason, he's just one of those people walking around like, give me an excuse.
That's why
give
I was
me an
actually
excuse to hurt you.
I
Really
was actually
bad.
pretty surprised that he didn't just like blow like the gun range owner's shop, like at least his knee off or something.
Yeah.
Like for arguing with him.
Right. You know what else was weird with this movie is like there was Mel Gibson. He had some like emotional little moments that in that moment, it's like you're like, okay, like this movie, like I can buy this movie and this scene right now, like as a sad sort of scene, even though this is a fucking movie about Santa Claus and a hitman trying to kill him.
Right.
And Santa and a bunch of elves hiding in a complex.
Yeah.
The North Pole complex where they deliver. It's like it reminded me of like a little mini UPS facility.
Yeah.
Or something, which I don't know how Santa Claus and these 100 or 200 elves could deliver to the whole world, but whatever. Let's just assume they have annexes.
That's the magic part.
That's the magic. Yeah. Or maybe they have a few annex buildings, whatever. But I just loved the sort of mythos around like this complex and this like this group, this hidden secret. Well, I don't know how secret they are because a lot of the people up there kind of knew about them.
Hidden.
Yeah.
But up until the point where, spoiler, the military comes in to aid in Santa's issue with not making enough money. Up until the military comes in, I don't think anybody interacted with the elves other than Mr. and Mrs. Claus, because that was like one of the first few emotional scenes when he got up and he's like, hey, everybody, thanks for coming back, like literally a day or so after Christmas, when they're supposed to have like a little break, basically.
Yeah.
And he gets a little teary-eyed up on that little platform as he's like, the military's coming in to kind of take over the production line, so to say. So here, you know, you got to listen to this guy now. And like one of the first thing they do is chop all the little bells off of the,
Yeah.
elves' shoes. And it's like, I don't know, just all the little,
It's the little things.
yeah, it's so I guess this is the best way to put it. So growing up, you have like all this knowledge of like what Santa is, the North Pole, like, all that, like,
Rosy cheeks.
yeah,
Saint Nick,
the magic, like,
the
of it,
snowmen.
so like what they did so well is they grounded everything, and then the little bit that they like put in there of that like magical world, they did it in a way that was not outside of that groundedness,
Yeah.
if that's the right
Yeah.
way to put it. But like just like, the elves are always goofy and they're quirky, and like these elves were like, they were we're working.
Yeah.
We're getting it done. We're working. If it's for the military, Santa, if you say it, let's go.
Yeah. And they weren't
But-
treated like slaves.
yeah.
They loved what they do.
yeah, but then they add a serious scene in, but it's like that movie's version of comic relief of like, you see like them at the lunch line in the factory, and they're literally putting like whole cakes, cookies, like,
Yeah.
pies, and then you just see a shot of someone scooping a spoon literally into just a vat full of sugar and pouring it over everything.
Right.
And then the general's like, you need some like protein in your diet, and like the head elf at the time's just like, no, that's inefficient.
Yeah.
Like, this is the best way to do it. Well, how long can you basically hold up like this? Oh, forever.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh
Yeah. I loved that little moment. I'm glad
Yeah.
they kept that in the movie. I feel like that was probably a part some asshole argued that should be cut out of the movie, but I love that was in there.
yeah, same.
Because it just added this layer to the world of the movie and to the elves that it was a short scene. It was only like a minute or two, but
Yeah.
just the elf talking about like, oh, this is what we're like. We eat
Right.
nothing but sugar and candy and sweets, and we sleep 1 hour a day, and we bust our ass all the time.
And the general even makes the comment that he's like, yeah, that would help with like your discoloration or something odd, because
Yeah.
they're like pale and like oddly colored, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the whole movie.
I didn't catch, were elves humans that like became elves, or were they just like, because elves are own like their
Yeah.
own little
It's
thing.
it's a known race type
Oh,
of
okay.
thing, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah.
I mean, that type of elf.
yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if I missed it or not, but
No, I don't. They didn't. I mean, that's something not in this movie, at least. Are you talking about in general or in this movie?
in this movie.
No, they never mentioned anything about it.
Okay.
It was just kind of like Santa and his elves
Yeah.
are
Because they had
like
the
the
ears.
special
and the-
thing.
yeah.
Because even in that scene, even the general says something about like, is that how Santa stays young or something? And the head elf makes the comment like, oh no, that's the joy or something like that keeps him young. He does like a little one-liner where he's like, oh no, the joy or the believing keeps him young or something like that.
Right.
And then shortly after, there's that scene where Mrs. Claus like brings out those folders while he's Santa's at the punching bag getting some frustration out.
Right.
And that was another one of the like kind of like touching moments where it's like just her sweet way of letting him know that he does change people's lives. And there's like a picture of a little girl holding a fire truck, and then another picture of her now grown up in front of a real fire truck because she became a firefighter because of him, and like a couple things like that. And it was just, yeah, everything they did just made me like buy into it.
It wasn't.
That's what was so well done about it.
Wasn't overly long either. It was like
No.
right at home at like hour and a half.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it stayed on point. It was interesting, and I think it. I mean, we'll get to the rating part, but like I think it did just about everything, either really good or adequately enough.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Surprisingly, I thought this was going to have a lot of missteps, but not many
was
I can think of for what it was.
Pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. And what are the ratings on this movie on like IMDb or Rotten Tomatoes? I'd be interested to know that, because I thought I saw the rating tomato meter or whatever the fuck on Voodoo or Amazon. wherever the fuck we watched it, and it was like shit ratings.
I'm sure it was.
And I was like, "What? Get the fuck out of here!"
That's because it wasn't. On IMDb, it says 5.9 out of 10.
Get the fuck out of here, IMDb. What a bunch of fucking pansies.
Let's see what critics say about it, though.
5.9. That's like I consider that bad on IMDb. That means people didn't.
Yeah.
That's
it's
that's like people.
halfway. It's
There's like a
neutral. It's
shitload of
neutral.
1-star ratings on that.
Yeah.
Whatever. You don't know what a good movie is.
Are there comments on the IMDb page?
I don't know, like what if you
User
bothered to
reviews.
watch this.
Okay, so user reviews. This is awesome. 7 out of 10. The Christmas movie 2020 deserves 7 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. 7 out of 10. 10 out of 10. 8 out of 10. 7 out of 10.
Find a
8 out of
1-star. I always like to filter down to the 1-stars and see what the people that didn't like had to say about it.
Incredibly stupid. Sorry, I wasted time on this. I don't do reviews, but this deserves a review. Avoided at all cost. A pointless movie. Beginning to end rubbish. The movie never should have been made. I love Gibson.
He should have never been made.
Okay. No, seriously. Did Mel ask the kids in Miss Jackson's third grade class to come up with an idea for his new Christmas movie?
What were you expecting, though?
Not funny, not interesting, not good. Well, it wasn't supposed to be funny. WTH, worst movie ever. Are you freaking serious?
They're probably upset because there wasn't a scene where Santa Claus was firing Tommy guns out of his sleigh
I
in the
hope
sky.
no parents mistake this for a Christmas movie, because it's not. This is one of the idiots that post stuff on these sites because they don't do their homework on movies, and they're like, "Oh, I had my kids watch this."
Yeah, a lot of retarded people watched it.
Not an Xmas movie. Oh, really? You mean to tell me you couldn't tell by the front cover or the trailer of the movie that it might not be a Christmas movie?
You can't help that guy.
Well, here, this is just like the Die Hard problem. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I don't know. Is Fat Man a Christmas movie? I don't know. They both take place around Christmas. Could be called a Christmas movie.
Dude, I'm gonna watch this again, and when it comes Christmas time next year, I'll probably figure, fuck it, dude, I'm gonna watch Fat Man.
So this one says, turn back now while you still have a chance. Initial thoughts. What an actual joke of a movie. Why the film started off with promise, not even 30 minutes in, it started to go downhill. From a self-absorbed child who acts like he's all that to an assassin with a Jack Nicholson from The Shining persona.
Is that a bad thing?
Yeah, I get that, but
that sounds
simply
like a good
awful.
thing. So what are we talking about? Characters
completely
here?
Misleading description.
I'm gonna punch these people. It's called Fat Man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not really supposed to be taken
Here's
seriously.
a 1 out of 10. We are adults now. We are too grown to be thinking Santa, aka Satan, is real. Bye.
God, see, no,
you all are stupid as fuck.
I want to find one star review that actually makes a legitimate point about why it's not a good movie. Maybe I can be convinced. If this ain't your flavor, fine. But these reasons are stupid. Not a Christmas movie.
Way too basic.
I don't
think we're gonna find a 1-star that can articulate correctly, other than, oh, I didn't like this. Not a comedy. Okay, so these are the type of people that do stupid stuff in life and then complain that like they didn't know better. That's what this is. Did anybody look at a trailer? What do you mean not a comedy? You gave it 1 star because you were confused that it was a comedy? I don't think that's its fault.
Most of these 1-stars probably turned it off after 5 minutes because they realized it wasn't a comedy.
Well, okay, here's the first 10-star. Fat Man is the 3rd movie I watched from the Nelms brothers. It's their best one yet. The first one, Lost on Purpose. The second one, Small Town Crime. And now Fat Man. Cast is amazing. And the setting, film was shot in Canada. It also fits perfectly into the weather Christmas vibe. delivers the perfect mixture of humor, drama, action, violence, thanks to the great job the brothers did. Perfect cast. Die Hard, 10 out of 10. Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
That's my boy.
Not what I expected, pleasantly surprised. That's where I land.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the trailer was pretty. That's why like the 1-star reviews are unbelievably stupid, but just because if you watch the trailer or looked at the poster of the movie, you know it's probably not something your 4-year-old's gonna enjoy.
Yeah, I don't
You know
know
what
how
like
you can
what is
pick.
that about?
Yeah, if you bought this and you turned it over, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be one of those images on the back of Walton Goggins holding his favorite silenced pistol,
Right.
like this. Like you're
Well, just
you're not going to mistake this for like a family Christmas movie. This isn't fucking Tim Allen and Santa Claus 5.
right. Well, okay. Look at this poster. What about this makes you think? I'm going to show this on the YouTube. Right here. What about any of the Fat
I
Man?
love how
There's
it's
a
called
giant
fat, and he's
Batman.
not even fat, really.
Yeah. It's just a joke on the whole like Santa's fat. But like this does not look like a family film. There he is. Walton's got a gun. Here, does that look friendly? I'm not gonna load it up, but here, look at this one. Does that look friendly? Naughty and nice list.
It's a different take on Christmas, and
this
these
look friendly?
stupid people.
This is right after, spoiler alert, this is right after him and Mrs. Claus.
Instead of people embracing a different kind of take, they just like wanted it so bad to be some kind of Hallmark Christmas movie
Yeah.
like
Oh,
all
yeah.
the others.
Yeah,
I've seen
because
a
they were
million
like,
times.
oh, Mel Gibson in it? This is going to be good. And guess what? Motherfuckers, it was good.
It was.
Just not in the, oh, it's a Christmas story. Little
Yeah.
Timmy came home
It's-
after college to the family. He almost missed the
and
dinner.
he found a fairy in his closet
Yeah.
with magic Christmas powers.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've watched some Christmas movies with the family, and they're good. I mean, they're Christmas movies. They're all warm and, fuzzy and all that good stuff. It's,
Yeah, I love those as much as the
Yeah.
next guy.
But when you can sneak a movie like this in and say, hey, this is about Santa Claus, okay? This is not the Santa Claus that you know, but it kind of lives in the same world, but it also lives, firmly in our world.
Yeah.
And it's executed this well. Whoever's saying this is a bad movie, like if someone said, yeah, it was okay, I would be okay with that.
Mhm.
I would just say
Yeah.
I
can
it's
understand if this isn't your flavor of a movie, but from what we read there, the people that hated this movie,
go home.
it's like they had no idea. Someone else they walked in the room and someone else played it, and they didn't even know what they were. What are we watching today, Tommy? Oh, we're watching a Christmas movie.
It's a Christmas movie. They don't tell them what it is. They're just like, it's a Christmas movie. They sit down. Of course, you're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Well, or you could just be like, oh, we're not actually watching a
Right.
lame ass movie. We're watching something cool.
Yeah. And this one was freaking awesome.
You just gotta like accept it and go with. If you're a movie fan, just like throw out all of these fucking predispositions and all these things you have built up in your head about it. Just sit back and watch the movie. Do you enjoy it or do you not enjoy
Right.
it? It established its rules, it established its perimeters, and it stayed within its bounds.
Yep.
And it did it damn near flawlessly on a lot of fronts.
Yeah. That's why I feel like a bumbling idiot, like at the beginning of the podcast, when I'm trying to tell my version of it, because like every other movie we've done, I've been able to like pick at least a little. This is like, it feels very different for me because it's like, of course I could pick at some things, but like, of course it's convenient for Santa to be like, to hold the superpower of being able to heal like after gruesome things and stuff like that. But like, it all still feels grounded in like his character in this movie, it all feels correct.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a convenience at all.
Yeah.
And that's what's brilliant about it, because most of the time when you get to that point and then, you know, like he's laying there literally with like a hole through his eye, and you're like, oh, he's, you know, or like, you know, before he gets shot, you're like, oh, he's not going to get shot at Santa. He gets shot, he's dead, you don't see him moving, and then he finally takes a breath or like mumbles something or whatever, and you're like, you don't feel like it's a convenience. It's just like, oh, that's like it fits 100% now.
Yeah.
In this world, that's what. Yeah.
There was
I can't speak.
Like you said, there was
no about it.
There was no over stylization.
Yeah, it was
or
brilliant.
weird slow mo, and everything played out kind of the way you would expect it, or not even kind of. It played out the way you would expect in the real world.
Right.
It wasn't. Things weren't done in this grandiose kind of way. A lot of things happened unceremoniously.
Yeah.
That in any other movie would be put on a pedestal or bolstered with all kinds of over stylization, like a Zack Snyder movie. Not that I'm talking bad on Zack Snyder, because I do think his movies for me are very hit and miss.
Yeah.
But when he gets it right, he gets it so fucking right. But anyway, that's like stylization done right.
Right.
For certain things like Watchmen or whatever, in my opinion. But this is like we've talked about so many times already. It's grounded in the real world. If Santa Claus existed in the real world,
right,
this is what it would be. It wouldn't be rosy cheeked Santa always smiling and laughing, and this didn't feel like fucking Elf with Will Ferrell.
Right.
There was just like,
and I'm pretty
no
sure
Mary
that's
and magic.
what those 1 stars were complaining about is really what it was.
Yeah, there was really no Mary and Christmas magic and mysticism and all that jazz. Well, there was mysticism, but there wasn't like that.
But it was still grounded. It was just like a touch here and there. It wasn't like whole.
The elements of magic were not like shoved in your face,
right?
Or it was all just done so subtly.
Yeah, it was
brilliant. And really well. And it's like you know that for the premise of this movie, when this slid across someone's desk, some producer's desk, and you're like, Jesus, what the fuck is this? What are we gonna put into this movie?
Yeah.
Oh, we were thinking $100 million.
Right.
I'll give you 5.
Yeah.
I'll give you
and
3.
It could be done.
Yeah. It's like, who can we get for this? Well, Mel Gibson, you know, his career is kind of like really fell off the rails a few years ago, and he's pretty cheap these days, and he's fucking crazy. He'll do this.
Right.
But the dude is undeniably a master actor.
Yeah.
And Walton Goggins is just like, you couldn't have got a better guy.
Yeah,
you couldn't have got a better cast.
Because with him, it's like he plays that weird, like, let's be honest, like if you see him walking down the street, you're not going to think he's a hitman at all. Like he just has that like look, but like in this movie, it was done so well.
Yeah.
Just like his like persona, his like aura, like with people, like the moment he had to turn on the I'm threatening you like vibe, it was just like it came across. And yes, that was probably one of the funnier parts of like the whole movie, where he's just like threatens people, they die. You know, it's
very
just
much
like
played to that comedy that we made with the Thex films back in the day.
Right. And even like the little boy who, in all honesty, you could have, maybe that's my one, I could complain about this thing. You didn't even need that little boy in the movie at all, because he already had a grudge with Santa.
Yeah, that's true.
So
yeah,
you could have actually taken that whole like little boy stuff out, and you could have had a really solid movie. The little boy just helped with like the okay, now there's 2 people that hate Santa, and it was kind of fun to see him like lose the science fair, and then he has the hitman bring the girl who won to his house, and he's like, you know, snapping like a battery you know what I'm talking, like jumper cables together for sparks.
Yeah.
So like, you go tell them that you lied and you cheated the science fair, so I win.
The kid was a good actor too. I mean, normally with you kid actors,
he's going to be an Italian mob movie at some point.
Yeah, he will.
That kid is for sure.
normally with a kid actor, you're like, oh Christ, here we
Yeah.
go. But some movies do it really well. Like the It remake had like really good kid actors.
Right.
Stranger Things had really good kid actors.
Yeah.
This fucking movie, you would think like this if there's gonna be the worst part about this movie is gonna be this kid actor, but like he was entertaining to me too.
Oh,
He
it's
was
so much
he was
fun.
just so ridiculous
Yeah.
and such a spoiled piece of shit that
Yeah.
it was just like it was hilarious to me. Just like in Game of Thrones,
Like Joffrey.
one of my three favorite characters are Tyrion because that's everyone's favorite character, the Hound,
Right.
and Joffrey because
Yeah.
Joffrey is just so unbelievably spoiled and ridiculous. Like
Right.
I thought I was spoiled. This Joffrey
Well,
kid is like on a
You didn't question his spoiledness at all. That was the
Yeah.
brilliance of it.
yeah. And it's just like there's something about that that's just like so funny to me. Like this
Yeah.
little fucking asshole that thinks like the whole world should bow down to their
Right.
every need. Everyone is beneath them. There is nothing more important than what I want right now in this moment. You better give it to me or I'm going to hurt you.
I'm gonna kill you, a
Yeah.
murder.
And it's just like it's like people like that exist and it's just I
Right.
don't know. It's just something about it that's so funny how some people can be so self-centered and be such assholes.
Right.
Like when he took the packet, just little things. He took the package from like who was it that gave him that
his
present?
dad.
Yeah, and he's
His
just like,
dad was in the Bahamas.
yeah, he's like, pass it to me.
Yeah, oh yeah. He's standing literally
It's right there.
for everybody to see this. He's like this far away from his maid. His maid's like holding the box here.
Yeah,
And he goes,
pass it to me.
and so the maid has to reach farther
Yeah.
over and he like doesn't move at all. It's just it was just that part of it was like his scenes and stuff were really, really well done. It held up. But maybe, like I said, maybe that's the only thing I could actually really pick on is you didn't even need that, but it was fun to see that.
Yeah, and the thing about like low budget movies is like you get a lot more familiar with the settings because in this movie there's like three that I can think of. There's like the scenes with the little asshole child in his house, wherever he is. There's Santa up at the North Pole at his complex, and there's a lot of snow and his complex. And then it's Walton Goggins, the hitman, on the road.
Right.
And that's it. It's just like it kind of cuts between these three
narrows
locations.
everything down to,
And you get so familiar with Santa and you get to spend time and get immersed. There's like you get that immersion when you get to spend time in these places.
Right.
And there's attention to detail that they give you. So you get to like explore Santa's workshop a bit. You get to spend a lot of time in the hitman's car and see like the fucking trash everywhere and
I mean
and his lifestyle.
You got to go back to like the post office twice. So you just felt like
like logistically
there was little stuff like that. But.
Logistically, like this movie didn't seem like it was too intensive, but that plays to its strengths because as an audience, we get more time to be immersed in these settings that are really interesting before moving on to somewhere else that's like, well, we've been here before in a million other movies.
Right. And I mean, talking about like logistics of it, like just thinking about like the post office, like if we would do this movie, just thinking of like the post office scene or like the car scenes where you're literally talking about one or two actors like the whole time in these scenes or multiple scenes in like the same place. Like that just gives you the ability just to like relax and film like in a way kind of like we do. And it's like Tim, a friend of ours, said in one of our short films, he was like, I just love that you guys will like do like 7 takes and then pick the best one. It's not like we're time constrained, where it's like, okay, we got 30 minutes to do this. That gives us one shot at it. And that's the take we have to have. It just felt like they took care of everything and it came right across the camera to sitting there as a viewer, because like I would have been okay not liking this movie, but there's just like it almost sounds like we're getting paid. Like from the last couple films, it almost sounds like at least I'm getting paid to like promote this movie or something because I love it so
because
much.
we're
But
sucking it off so
yeah.
hard.
But like it's just it like really hit home with how one, it's like a complex idea, but it was done so simply because once again, because they grounded it in like real life.
Yeah.
Everything that happened just was sold 100% like to the viewer. Obviously not to everybody because but
they don't matter.
yeah, I just think I just thought it was brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to check out their other movies.
Well, shall we do the old rating system?
Yes, we shall.
I do have to note, I just thought of it, I meant to mention it. That really brief moment where
Yeah.
Walton Goggins was in that jujitsu class and broke that dude's arm, and he's just like, and he stands up like, "Woo! I broke his arm, yeah, woo!" It's like that was especially funny for me because like, where is this guy signed up?
Because you're in jujitsu.
Yeah, where is he signed up at? Like, how long has he been going here? Does he do this to everybody?
He probably pays extra just so he can like just knock a guy out every once in a while.
Yeah, it's just like some open academy. Like you can go there on Sundays, and he just went in there and just like broke somebody, and it's like, oh, yep, broke his arm. All right, see ya. I won't be back.
All right, so let's start with you with your rewatchability. Where do you put it?
Rewatchability, I would put I will rewatch it. When Christmas comes around again, I would actually be excited to rewatch it.
Yeah.
If someone held a gun to my head and said, "You're gonna rewatch it right now," I'd be like, "Cool."
Okay.
Yeah. I'd give it an 8.
Okay. Ironically, that's what I was gonna give it.
Yeah. I mean, we're sucking it off hard. It's not like the best movie in the world or anything, but it's just impressive how good it was for what
it just
kind
feels like
material it was in it.
If you like disregard like the actors, and I'm sure, well, let's stop. What was the budget? I should have just looked this up before I start.
We should guess first. I'm gonna say
I think it was below 20.
Okay, I'll say
that's my honest guess. Did they do budget?
I'll say 40 million
on IMDb.
I know that's probably overshooting, but I'll say 40 million just to be a little wildly different from 10 million.
Gosh. Do they do that on IMDb?
Yeah, they do.
I don't want to do this.
There's like a global and domestic. But yeah, they made that money, whatever money they put into it, they made it work for them just right.
Why do I have to log in?
That's fucking dumb. I can get my phone and I'll check.
Well, I was up here earlier.
Yeah, it should be.
Isn't it right down here somewhere?
Yeah, somewhere in there. There's all these different sections like trivia, bloopers, critic reviews,
box office. Well, I want to know what the
well, anyway, we're still figuring out what the budget was for FATMAN, but
let me look up let me just do this on the old Google.
I'm not sure. I know Walton Goggins has got to be in high demand these days. I mean, he's in like what you'd call A-list movies. Mel Gibson's a strange case because like he wasn't making movies for about what 5-10 years.
20 mil.
20 million.
Yeah,
that's exactly what you said, right?
I said 20 below. Yeah.
Well, right on the money. Ba-boom.
So it definitely doesn't look like they made their money back.
And you know what? If you'd have given this to a different director, you might have had $150 million movie and a worse movie.
Right. So on Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 45%.
Fuck off.
With an average rating of 5.3. Fans, however, have rated the movie at 85%.
There you
which
go.
Feels much better.
That's much more in tune. Look, just because it's a really cool movie that has the character Santa Claus in it, and you just cannot get over the fact that Santa Claus isn't some fucking rosy-cheeked,
This is where it's sad.
white-haired, smiling
It-
fucker throwing
Its
presents
opening
from the sleigh.
weekend grossed $108,000. Its second weekend grossed 51. It dropped off half. And then a video on demand. Third most rented film on Fandango. Fourth one, it remained top 4 spots on all 4 platforms following weekend, while also grossing $11,000 from 42 theaters. So it may or may not have
What did it?
made its money. Box office was 1.3 mil, and they made it for 20. So I think you could call it a flop, but I think people are really missing the whole shebang.
Well, hopefully over time it gains a following.
Yeah.
There's so many good movies throughout time that today people consider a masterpiece, but when they came out, they were panned. People hated them. Like
Oh yeah.
The Thing.
Yeah.
I think The Thing and E.T. came out like the same weekend,
Yeah.
or the E.T. came out the weekend before, and this friendly alien and this
Right.
precious story about this little boy and this friendship with this alien, whatever. But then The Thing comes out and everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's horrible.
It's awful.
This is go see E.T. This is some motherfucking crazy."
All right. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my story down.
So for the story aspect on the rating scale,
I put a 9 down because
a 9.
with every story, I think you may be able to beef it up to some extent, but I'll do this. We'll do 9.5.
Whoa.
Because I'll just leave it at that half where it's like, I don't know what they could have done. Somebody could have probably figured out something to make it just a little bit better. But like in my world, it is like knocking on the door of just being able to take like a story we all know and then adapting it to like something it never was intended. I think is brilliant to me, but
Right. Yeah, I get that. I'll give it an 8. Because I wasn't. It didn't have like the Hodor moment or anything,
Right.
but it didn't really need to.
Right.
It was simple premise, and
that
they
would have made it what if it did? If you were like,
I don't know.
oh my god.
Yeah, there was never a moment where I was just like some movies and shows have that moment where you just lean back and you're like, fuck.
If I say or make an audible noise, that's like a 10 for me.
Yeah.
And like the Hodor moment, that when it actually clicked on what was happening, I said, oh my god, out loud. So that would have been a 10.
Right.
That episode at least.
Yeah. Might have been one of the last 10s Game of Thrones ever produced, sadly. So now we're moving on to characters.
How strong do you think the characters were overall?
I really liked them a lot. I'd give that a 9.
Yeah.
I just think they got just the right actors. Yeah, other people could have done these roles maybe, but I'm not thinking of anybody right away.
Yeah.
Like I think they got the number one person to fit the shoes of the Hitman and the Santa Claus and even Mrs. Claus.
Right.
And the kid, the fucking asshole child.
Right.
I think they swooshed it practically.
Yeah. So then it's do you believe?
Yeah, that one I'm gonna give it 10 because I think what they were able to achieve.
Yeah, and the reason why I gave it a 10 was not at one point did the movie take me out of the universe.
Right.
That's my criteria for a 10.
Yeah.
If all of a sudden I have to question something or something happens where I'm like, oh, that feels odd, then you've lost it.
Yeah.
You've lost the 10.
The last movie we watched was GoldenEye, and we gave GoldenEye a 1 on the things that happen that take you out of the movie because they're just so ridiculous. Now, I love GoldenEye. I fucking love GoldenEye.
Yeah.
But
that's why we have multiple categories because you have to.
Yeah. But in terms of do you believe this universe, or there are moments that take you out of the movie GoldenEye? Like I was taken out of it so many times.
Right.
But that's not to say I didn't enjoy it, but that's a special sort of circumstance. That's a special case. That's nostalgia's in there too.
Yeah. So I'll let you start the last one creativity.
Oh, creativity. For that, I'm gonna give it. I want to say an 8. I'll give it an 8. I was gonna say a 7. Wait a minute. Let me think about this for a moment. This is tough. 7.5. Let me give it 7.5 because I'm going back and forth between the two. It's like it didn't try to be anything it wasn't. It didn't try to shoehorn in this shit that didn't need to be there. And it handled its material for what it was, a Santa Claus movie, exponentially well. It had me buying into it with every single scene, everything that happened. I was on board with it. Was it like super duper overly creative in a lot of ways? Yeah.
Yeah.
Not in a way that I was floored, but
right.
But in a way that
you can kind of enjoy every second of it. That's what it
yeah, I love how this whole thing was pieced together. I think it was done in a solid is the best way to put it. It's just solid. It's just solid.
Well, I don't know if you can see it backwards or not, but right here at the bottom of the screen.
So we give FATMAN
an 8.7 out of 10.
Alchemy Point Podcast gives it an 8.7 out. Give me the echo effect. The Alchemy Point Podcast gives FATMAN an 8.7 out of 10.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's
good movie.
I think that's pretty solid too, because like with I don't know that we're ever going to get like a oh my god across the board. We got 10s the whole way, 10 out of 10. It would take a lot. Like it would have to check every box off you can imagine, and even unconsciously you don't know about, to get a 10 out of 10. But excuse me. I feel really good about that one. I mean, yeah, like I've said enough already about it. It was just very enjoyable. Like the reprocessing of characters that you kind of knew and love, and then adding in just this ridiculous aspect of a hitman. Of course, you have the bratty kid, and then the military out of nowhere. It's just like,
right,
yeah.
They could have hung a lot of bad.
Yeah,
they could have hung a lot of bad ideas. Think of the bad ideas like ornaments on the tree. They could have hung a lot of those on this movie, but they weren't there.
Yeah,
thank God.
They did a really good job at hanging the correct ones.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing. They stayed true to the style. It worked.
Yeah.
This movie was not out of tune.
Right.
Even though it should have been so many times.
Yeah, it lived in its own space very, very well.
Yeah, and that's what's the most impressive thing about it. And like I said, the first thing right out of the gate I mentioned was the fucking action scene at the end.
Right.
It's just like with these gun battles, they felt so realistic. It felt like a fucking cameraman was out there filming a real gunfight.
Right. It felt good.
Yeah, I was like, geez,
it
not what I was expecting
me
from FATMAN.
Yeah, but it did remind me, because I pick on you about the 80s a lot, but it reminded me a little bit of like 80s action movies where the camera was not like it felt it to whatever word that is. What you just said about like you felt like a cameraman was like inside of the action. Like a lot of 80 movies did this thing sometimes where it felt like it was very run and gun. Like the shot wasn't set up all pretty. It just happened. And it felt like that. So it felt more legit than if it would have been super, super pretty.
Right.
And then like the pretty stuff happened when it was just Hitman and FATMAN is what it came down to.
And you can tell like
perfect.
The different ways of directing action scenes. Some directors are just like, let's get as many cameras aimed at what we're doing as possible.
Right.
And we'll figure it out in the edit. And then you have other directors that are like, we're going to stage this in a particular way because I see this a certain way and I want this a certain way. And we're going to stage it how it should be done.
Right.
And and they did that very, very well with
Really,
this.
really
They
well,
planned out their shots. It was shot really well. Like it looked.
Yeah.
This movie looks good.
Yeah.
We keep saying gritty
It just wasn't over
grounded, but
stylized, which was like really refreshing.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to. But
yeah, it was just right. It was right on tone. It set the tone and it stayed on tone.
right.
And love that. So really impressive.
Yeah.
Pleasantly surprised. I figured I would like this movie, but I liked it more than just liking it.
A lot more.
Yeah.
Than I thought.
Yeah, this will be a rewatch. I'd like to watch it again because I'd like to, especially for that action scene and the world building. I'd like to kind of study how they went about that.
Yeah, that would be the fun part about rewatching it, is because now you know the story. Now you can watch the other side of things.
Right.
But yeah. Before we start talking in circles, I think that's it.
How long has this podcast been?
1 hour and 5 minutes.
Okay.
It's gonna be a record.
Okay.
It's gonna be a record.
Yeah, we got all our words out. And
so like normal, you can follow us on the social medias. It would be awesome to get people to send in movies they want us to review, or things they want us to watch. Maybe even if maybe we can do a thing where we can do fan videos. If you have a YouTube video you want us to watch and critique or enjoy, send it to us. Send us anything. Send us money. Send us video suggestions.
Bitcoin.
Send us Bitcoin.
Ethereum.
If you don't send us Bitcoin, we'll start talking about the stocks again, man.
This podcast, it's trying to make itself an hour and a half. We're not going to let it happen.
Yeah, that's it. Alchemy Point Podcast, or the Alchemy Point Podcast, everywhere. Listen to us: Spotify, Apple Music, Google Play, everything. And I think that's it.
Good day, everybody. Watch it.
Damn, that's right.
You know, freaking.
No, what's this? But I've had it half on this. Oh, idiot.
You're out to your desk. You're out again.
Hey, you can't fucking get better. Come here, we can.